Welcome to the Outwitting Statistics in Search of a Better Business podcast. Were you aware that nearly 19% of all entrepreneurs fail within their first year of business? By year 5, nearly 50% have faltered, and at year 10, nearly 65% of all businesses will have failed needlessly. My name is Kraig Bond. I am the CEO and owner of Elite Results Marketing, and on our podcast, we are going to interview highly successful entrepreneurs that have generated multiple 6 figures, if not 7 figures and beyond. And we're going to unpack their habits, their mindsets, their strategies that have allowed them to beat these statistics and against all odds, create a highly successful business. So sit back, relax, get ready to learn, and enjoy today's episode. All right, we are back for another episode of Outwitting Statistics in Search of a Better Business, where entrepreneurs share tips, tricks, hacks, mindsets that have helped them be successful in business. I am super excited for our guest today. He has run a multi-7-figure chiropractic office and now does consulting for other chiropractors to help them understand how they can also grow their business so they can help more people. I am excited to be talking to Dr. Ryan Warren. I'm going to turn it over to him for a second so he can tell you about who he is, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Sure. Thanks, Kraig. Appreciate it, man. You hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. Beautiful, man. Hey, well, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Was excited to talk with you. Glad we finally connected. My name is Dr. Ryan Warren. I practiced in Rogers, Arkansas from 2019 up until last year. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I went to chiro school at Logan in St. Louis and graduated in 2017, December 2017, basically 2018. Was an associate doctor at a practice on the other side of town. I would say I was an associate / independent contractor. I kind of did both. I kind of brought in my own patients, plus I salaried to see some of his patients, and did that for almost a year to the date. And then opened my clinic. And we did really, really well, really, really quickly. And I figured a lot of things out on my own. I did have a really good coach for a little bit that showed me some things. And that was part of the reason why we were able to grow so fast. And then past that, then we got to a sticking point, and I kind of had to add things to the clinic and learned a lot of things myself. And I was showing my other chiro buddies how to do this stuff, and they were flying in, and they were coming, driving over to the office to, and then they'd call me on the phone. And so I got to the point where I was like on the phone as many hours a week, helping explain things and doing things with other chiros as I was in the office. And so I said, well, I might as well just monetize this and just start making them pay me for that extra time that I'm spending. And then I got approached by 2 of my friends on the other side of town who were looking to buy another office to come in and buy my clinic. And we sat down and had a conversation, and I said, hey guys, I probably wouldn't sell it for anything less than that. And they were like, done. It wasn't really any negotiating. And so it really just kind of fell into my lap. There's no really big story with selling the clinic. And I was already kind of consulting behind the shadows, no website, not putting anything out on Facebook, just taking calls and sending emails and documents out and helping chiros out. And then just decided to take a year off and build it up. And then I got super bored, not being in the office and seeing patients every day. So I said, well, let me just start it right now and see where it goes. And it's just exploded in literally like 4 weeks. So that's kind of where I came from and how I transitioned into from practice to consulting.
And the name of the new consulting is Apex. Is that right?
Apex Chiropractic Consulting. Yeah, that's a funny story, actually. So technically, it is Apex Chiro Consulting, but what it is known in the community is Apex Chiro Coaching. And the reason being is names. Apex is really popular. Consulting, the IRS, coaching. It was a little bit of a mess setting that up because it's a pretty general, popular name that's used a lot. So Apex Chiro Coaching.
Walk us through who you were when you were a kid, all the way through teen years, and how you transitioned into that business.
Well, it all goes together. I'm a firm believer in the way that your life plays out is a result of, you know, things that happen spiritually, big man upstairs, and then your, you know, that the way that all lays out is that plan, and all the things flow together as they're going. And that sounds kind of weird and kind of a mess the way I explained it, but as you get older and you realized the way things happened, and you look back and you go, had this not happened, or that not happened, or this not happened, I wouldn't be where I am today, if that makes sense, you know? So I'm a firm believer in all those things play together, and come together, and lay out perfectly. So, as a kid, I grew up in, was born in North Texas. Parents split when I was really little. Mom went to Arkansas. Dad was in North Texas. I was always back and forth between them. And so Arkansas is home, North Texas is home. You know, I was back and forth between both of those. And then we moved to Mountain Home, Arkansas, my senior year from San Antonio, Texas. My mom had went back to Texas, and then back to Arkansas. And that is where I met my wife. And we decided we didn't want to be there. There was nothing there. There was no opportunity. Wasn't going anywhere. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but knew I had the potential to do something. Knew there wasn't any opportunity for us to ever have the life that I saw that we could have. And so I started just looking around, and I had always been into like natural health and exercising and, you know, things in that realm. And so I started calling around, looking at different types of programs and stuff like that. I originally was going to go to dental school. Like that was the plan. I was getting my undergrad done. I was going to go to dental school. Well, then, you know, rewind, I had had a child out of wedlock with my girlfriend at the time when I was young. So I started planning out all this. So we split up, and I met who is now my wife, and was getting all the stuff ready to go to dental school, and then realized I was going to have to do 2 big moves to complete dental school. One for undergrad, and then again to go to dental school. And it was going to be 2 big moves over about 7.5, 8 years. So I said, man, well, what can I do that I can help people? I can be in the natural health realm and make a lot of money. And I was like, think about chiropractic. So I Googled chiropractic, what do chiropractors make? And it was terrible. It wasn't even over 6 figures. And I was like, well, let me look around and see if anybody makes more than that. So found out there are some people that made 7 figures doing it. I said, okay, if they're doing it, I can do it. And then I just started calling schools. And the first school that I called was Logan, sent in my transcripts, and they went, hey, if you take these couple classes, if they offer it at your current undergrad this summer, you could start here in the fall. That was the spring of 2014. That was the spring of 2014. And then I took those couple classes that they said that summer, and then we moved. So it's not like I had a lot of chiropractors had like, my dad was a chiropractor. I had like a spinal issue, and then I got adjusted. Mine was like, I was just like looking for a natural health, you know, type career that I could help people, work with my hands, love working with my hands, and make a lot of money doing it. And those all played into being a chiropractor. And the fact that they said I could come so quickly. They recruited really, really hard. They recruit super hard at Logan. And that's how it laid out. Then we moved to St. Louis. And we moved over to, this is actually a funny story. We moved over to the north side of St. Louis in the Florissant-Ferguson area. And I don't know if the word or the town Ferguson, Missouri rings a bell to you, does it?
Yeah.
You remember what happened there?
I don't.
The Mike Brown shooting. That happened literally right when we moved there, right down the road.
Oh man.
Yeah, so we moved to St. Louis. We moved over to the north side. We didn't have any money. We had nothing. I literally, the day we moved, sold my truck and traded it for a car. And then so I had a little bit of difference. Like I had a newer car and didn't owe anything on it. And so I traded it for an old truck, and the difference I got in cash, and it was like $1,300. It was like just enough to get us up there to St. Louis. And we got up there, And then that happened, and we were like kind of worried that we were on a not as great part of town. And then I forgot about this. I didn't even plan on telling you all this, but these are stories that you have to know. We literally, then I got up there and that old truck literally broke down right when we moved up there. And then I had to spend like that money that was going to hold us over to fix the truck so I could get back into, from school. And so it was super rough, super, super rough. And I'll bring all this around is why I'm telling you that story when we get to some of the things about being successful. So I was super rough. And then I already had kids. My wife had 2 kids. I had a kid. We already had a blended family. So when we went to chiro school, I already had mouths to feed. Right. And my wife was going to school too. And it was super rough, super, super rough. After we made it through the first year, my wife got done with school and she started working. We then moved over to a nicer part of town and then closer to the school. And she started working and we had more money inside our home to take care of the kids and to be a little bit more comfortable so I could focus on school a little bit better. But getting through that first year of school was absolute hell. I mean, it was so, so bad. We lost almost half our class that first year. And to this day, I don't know how I got through it, just working hard, because I'm definitely not the smartest person, but I was a hard worker. So we had it super rough when we moved to St. Louis. And what's funny is, and I talk about how that was kind of the rougher part of town where we moved. We were like the only white people in our neighborhood. But what's funny, Kraig, is when we moved to that neighborhood, all that Mike Brown stuff went down, down the road. But like as far as like crime, cars getting broke into, being scared, we had no problems. Then we move over to the west side of St. Louis, which is supposedly really nice. And it was like crime, cars getting broke into like every couple weeks. Like it was complete opposite of what you'd think. So a lot of times those stereotypes that you hear are completely not true. That's just a side note that doesn't have it. It's just a funny story. It doesn't really have anything to do with anything. But I always tell that to people. So got through chiro school. And then I had no idea what I was going to do. I just got super ambitious and was like, I'm going to find somewhere to place. We wanted to go back to Arkansas because my daughter was in Arkansas, but we did not want to go back to Mountain Home. And so we're like, well, what about Northwest Arkansas? There's much more going on over there. It's growing, it's expanding. Good place to raise a family. Didn't really have any family here. Just decided to lay down roots here. And so we moved over here after school. I interned with a couple guys, not making any money, just as intern. I got all my numbers in school really, really quickly, so I was able to leave a semester early. And so my whole last semester, I used that to start looking for opportunity over here. And I worked and interned with a couple other guys. One of those turned into a job with that clinic after I did graduate. And so I worked for him for a year and decided to get out of there because it wasn't going to go anywhere. I kind of was just going to be an associate forever. And I knew I wanted to own an office and just took the leap. Literally just said, hey man, I'm out of here. I'm going to go open my own. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I had a little bit of savings from, some of the money I'd made from my first year. But I knew if I could just get the doors open, and this is kind of all the stuff we went through previously and all the harsh times going through school and moving and being on tough times as a student and having a family, that I knew if I could just get the doors open on a clinic, all I got to do is get the doors open, that it would be successful. And I got really good experience selling care plans and treating patients at the other office. So I said, if this guy at this office can be doing as well as he does, if I can just get the doors open on a clinic, I'll crush it. So all I had to do is get the doors open. So I started making calls. We had moved into a different house over here on the west side of Rogers, and they had just put up this new strip right behind the neighborhood market. And every day I would drive past there and I would go, man, I could see myself having an office in there. And because I drove past it and go to that neighborhood market 3 or 4 times a week, I was always driving past it. And every time I would drive past it, I would just visualize, man, I could really see myself having an office there. I could really see myself having an office there. And I never did anything about it. I just drive by and visualize. And I'd be at home and I'd be like, man, it'd be really cool to have an office literally right there. It'd be a great spot. Little did I know they were about to build the Top Golf, all the restaurants. I had no idea. There was nothing there. There was nothing there. And I had no idea. I just got lucky. So the next time I drove past it, the building owner's personal info was on a billboard because they really needed to rent those spaces out. So I was like, what the heck? What do I got to lose? I don't have any money really. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I've already told the other guy I'm leaving and I need to figure something out. So I called him and kind of explained what I wanted to do and that I could, it would just be getting in that building. I would be a great tenant. He wouldn't have to worry about rent or anything. I just needed a path to get in there. And he was in a spot where he really needed to rent those spots out, which is totally different now. Now it would be like there's no negotiating room. But back then it was like, he really needed to get some people in those spots because he had that brand new, those 2 strips with, I think, 1 or 2 tenants in the whole thing, and a dentist and maybe one other person. And so we started talking, and the TI allowance he was offering versus the difference I had to pay for the build out, right? So when you do a build out, it's going to be X amount per square feet, and your builder or your building owner is going to give you X amount per square feet. And whatever the difference is between those 2 numbers is what you got to come out of pocket. And it came down almost to the dollar that I literally had that saved up. It was like, I literally had like 15,000 or 10,000 or something. And it was like, that was the difference. And so I was like, I got enough to build it out. I don't have enough for furniture. I don't have enough for tables. Like I don't have enough for anything, but I got enough to get in there. So I was like, cool, let's do it. And signed on the bottom line. They started the build out. Now it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to get all my equipment. So I thought and thought and thought. And so I called a mentor and a buddy of mine, Dr. Freeman. He was one of the offices I interned at. And I said, dude, I need a favor. I got to get some equipment. Will you buy it for me? I had a Care credit card. If you're familiar with Care credit, I had one with a massive balance because I was doing all this stuff to raise my credit while I was in school. So I had one with a massive available balance on it that I hadn't used. And I said, would you do me a solid? Will you, and I hope I'm not incriminating him by telling this story, but this is a cool story. I said, will you buy my equipment for me? All right. Through your clinic and let me pay your clinic. I don't have any cash, but let me pay you back via your clinic with this Care credit card. Does that make sense? So he bought all my equipment, like, cause he had the money, and then I paid him back. I didn't have cash to write him a check or give him cash, but I had a credit card and I swiped that credit card at his clinic. And then we did it for extra, to constitute the difference that there was going to be. So there, boom, now I had my equipment. Okay. And so it's like, I got the doors open, I got my equipment. And then it was like, I started writing out my care plans and how I was going to do treatment stuff. I was like, I'm doing it all on my own. Nobody's going to teach me. And then I went, something doesn't feel right. I don't know. I don't like this, because I was going to do all this nutrition stuff. I was big into maximized living, which was this spinal correction thing when I was in school, and like their protocols and head weighting and, just all this junk. And so I wrote it all, and then I went, this doesn't feel right. And so I said, I need somebody to help me with this. I don't know how I'll afford somebody to help me with this, but I need somebody to help me with this. So I got in touch I was referred to a coach named Dr. Tori Robeson with Winner's Edge, and who is easily considered the premier coach in chiropractic coach in the world. Okay. And he had a reduced coaching plan if you were not open yet. And so I showed him some of my stuff, and he's like, dude, you're not going to make it if you try this. And so then I was able to get a coach because I could afford his coaching plan, because he put me on a lesser costing coaching plan until I opened, and then took off. So I had the coach, now I had the equipment, and I had the building. And when those doors opened that first day, that business account was negative. I mean, so I got wife at home, I got kids at home, I got a negative business account. So it's like, I'm hungry, and so that's a very important point, from the story that I'll bring all this together at the end. But it's like, I opened that thing and I was hungry. I'm like, let's go. And so we made profit within the first 2 weeks opening that thing. Just crazy. I got a bunch of referrals from Orange Theory and all these businesses over here, got all them under care, and I just cranked it from the get-go. And then I hit this wall after about 6 months. And then I was like, all right, all this stuff I'm doing sucks. These patients don't like it. I'm going to be stuck here. So I finally had money. So I ripped the whole place down and remodeled it and started over. And then That was the second year. And then I went, whoa, I took a big jump after doing that. And then I got really good at that. And then it was like, man, I'm missing a point where I can take care of certain conditions. And so then I added decompression. Now at this point, the coaching had got me to a really good point, but I was adding all this stuff that I wasn't consulting with him on. He wasn't teaching, so on and so forth. I had changed everything. I wasn't using his stuff anymore. And so then I exited from that coaching group and was just on my own. And then I added another decompression table, and that took off. We went up to this high level. And then the final year, I wanted to start taking care of shoulders, knees, feet, like all the extra stuff that everybody complained about, but I didn't have a tool to take care of. So that's when I added the stem cell machine, or shockwave, or soft wave is what it's known as. So I added that, and then we went, whoa, we took this massive jump. And I took my visits down from about 100. I took my visits down by 100 visits per week. But that next year we collected 500,000 more, another 500,000. So I did this with my visits, but did this with my collections. And that was another thing like I wasn't getting from the coaching. The coaching was like, see more, do more. And I was like, it was kind of opposite of what I wanted to do. I wanted to see a lot less and provide a lot more expensive, higher value care plan to live a different type of life. And so as all my buddies are seeing me do this, and I'm just skyrocketing every year. I doubled my practice every single year from when I opened. They're like, how are you doing this? What are you doing? How are you adding? And so they're all coming to my office. I'm on the phone literally every night. I'm on the phone so much when I get home from work. My wife is like getting mad at me. She's like, you get home at 7 and you're on the phone till 10. And so
I can't relate to that at all.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm really freaking good at this. And I'm seeing chiropractors' bottom lines grow from this stuff I'm telling them, and nobody's teaching some of these principles, right? And I went to all these chiropractors' offices that were collecting $1 million a year or more, and they all had different practices, but they kind of all followed the same principles. And so what I did is I extracted those principles from all of them. They're with their hours, their overhead, what they did with their staff, what equipment they had. They all had extra stuff. None of them were just adjustments only. They all had extra tools in their tool bag. And I just kind of extracted all that and then built my own thing. And so I took those principles and I went, okay, this stuff that I taught myself, this is kind of what really, really chiropractors want. Chiropractors are coached on just increase your volume and it'll increase your collections. More people. But it's not really the case. You can find a healthy medium where you see not that many people, but you collect really, really good money. And then if you want to go more, you can, but you reach a point in practice where it's just you and 3 girls and your overhead's low and you're collecting well over 6 figures a month. You really don't need to collect anymore, right? When you're at that point, if you want to go from 125,000, 150,000, it's really not that much more money at that point, right? If you want to go from 150 to 250, yeah, absolutely. But you kind of just reach this point where it doesn't make sense to collect any more money because you're cash flowing so much that we can dump it into other brick and mortar businesses. We can invest it. We can buy rental properties, Airbnbs like I'm doing. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. So you don't have to see more people. You don't have to, work yourself into a pole. And so bringing all that together, what I think shaped me was going through all those hardships, money being tight, having a lot of stress, having mouths to feed while you're going through school. And it's like dealing with all that. By the time I opened office, I was like, that'd be easy. I've already dealt with all this crazy stuff over here that was really difficult in life. So once I got into running a business, it was easy. And I think that's the thing a lot of business owners don't understand is that you're going to suffer and you got to decide where that suffering is. And you also have to know that that suffering has to be for the greater good. And I tell chiropractors all the time, you're going to suffer. You can let it be in your business or you can let it be in your personal life. Sorry about the ding. Or it can be in somewhere like the gym. And so there has to be suffering in your life, but you get to choose where that suffering is. And so I think that because we had all that, by the time I got to the point of something that's so hard for people, opening a business, being profitable from the get-go, and doing big things, since I had already done all the other hard stuff, it was actually easier. So I think a lot of people don't have it real easy through school. Parents may loan them a little, some money. Parents may even buy the clinic or help them set up. And it's like, then they get in there, it's like super hard because they didn't have hardships. But hardships are so important for our success. And that's what I was saying just a minute ago. I tell chiropractors, you got to have some type of hardship in your life. That can be a super hard workout, like do something hard every day. That's what will make you more successful, is the more of those hardships that you can endure. It makes the stuff that typically people in business would say, this sucks. This is hard to do. I don't like this. It changes your perspective and your perception of that. Does that make sense? So I hope that kind of brought it all around.
No, you've got some great stuff I want to extract, because I was going to call out for anybody listening. You will notice that even though Ryan has been incredibly successful, he's talked about how hard it was and has been. And I can't put a finger on any person that's had a great deal of success that hasn't had some kind of hardship, some kind of struggle. It's almost evenly correlated how much struggle and hardship, how much success is outputted sometimes too.
I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely. And so that's the thing about social media. And before I started Apex, I was kind of quiet on social media. I kind of was a smart aleck here and there and joking around with my buddies. But that's why I hate social media, is because it's like people never post about like hardships. They're always posting about, look at this, we go do this, look at my food, look what I did this, look what I did that. And so the outside of it, people think like it's so glorious because they've only seen this good stuff and they haven't seen the bad stuff, and it really devalues it. So I never like post like, oh, here's my kid, we're doing this or that. And people will be like, you never post about your kid. And I'm like, I just don't want to just post just good stuff. Like, look at me, look how cool this is, so on and so forth. I'm in a different mentality now because I have to elevate chiropractors and make chiropractors motivated. So that's kind of like all my posts and things that I say now. But every single person that's successful, I don't know of anybody, or can't even think of anybody that's successful that hasn't had hardships. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the more you can endure hardships and the more hardships you've had, the more successful you'll be. And if you haven't had a hard life and it's been really easy, I think you owe it to yourself, society, your family, whoever, to find some way to suffer to make yourself harder so you can be more successful, right? And so that can be, like I said, hard working out. I've been training with Calvin Hot Sauce Henderson, a boxer, and he kills me in workouts. But it's like, well, then I got to go set all this other stuff because I paid my dues there and did something really hard. It makes this really, really easy. So I think that's super important to suffer, because you have to. You're going to suffer somewhere. And if you haven't suffered, you better pay your dues somewhere, because it's going to come.
A couple other things that I feel like we skipped over a portion that I want to touch on real quick. You indicated that you were going to go into dental, and I can see a huge need for help from somebody like you in that space as well. But you indicated that you'd already planned on owning a business, and not everybody wants to do that. So I'm just curious about who you were as a person, why you got inspired that you wanted to own a business.
Oh man, that probably goes back to childhood, and that's probably even sharing some even darker things. I mean, I had pretty rough childhood, back and forth. Had child protective services involved, bounced back to houses. I had been in host homes, and I'd been in foster home at one point, kind of deal. And I realized in those moments, in those really rough times in childhood, where I didn't have anybody to turn to, that if I had the full control of my life and I had a little bit of money, it would solve about 90% of these problems. So from an age or at a young age, I made the decision that I'm going to run this shit. Okay. And I'm going to be in charge, and I'm going to be boss man, and I'm going to be successful, because I'm never going to be at the whim of somebody else, of my life again, and let them control that. Now, what translated good was the drive mentality, go get it. I'm a self-starter. I don't need anybody else's help. But that also created some bad things, right? I want to be in control, right? I got to do things my way. me. So that also created some bad habits and some bad things as well. But success wise, that's what made me, was having to endure some of those hardships as a kid, and going, once I get older, I'm running it. And I'm not going to have to, want for anything from anybody. And so that's where that mentality got driven into my brain. It was at an age of about, you know, uh, 15 to 17.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you took ownership of your success. You weren't going to let somebody else control or dictate that. You were going to step in and control the factors you have the ability to control,
Yeah,
which, to your point, like that can cause problems. That usually causes conflict in relationships and stuff.
sure.
However, you can tame that back, building that into yourself. There's a lot of people that don't want to take ownership of what's going on. They're, woe is me. What's going on in my life?
Yeah,
Oh, it's this person's fault, that person's fault. And I think that of the successful entrepreneurs that I keep closely in my circle, or that I've had the blessing to be interviewing them, they all promote this idea of taking ownership and responsibility
yeah.
as much as they can.
Yeah, I read a book in Cairo school, Jocko Willink's big book that made him pretty famous, Extreme Ownership.
That's a good
And
one.
try to live by those, principles. But yes, that is a huge piece of being successful, is taking ownership of everything. And a kind of a mentor, somebody I looked up to one time when I was complaining about all these things and all these things that happened as a kid. He goes, it's actually, you're looking at the wrong way. It's actually a blessing, because I can, and I guarantee you can too, can name so many kids that had perfect childhoods and were perfectly coddled, but will never be on your level of success. So you need to actually be thankful that that stuff happened, and that you went through that stuff and kind of had, some of these abandonment things and so on and so forth, because of the success that it created. And that was probably one of the biggest mental pivots in my life, was when he told me that. As simple as it is.
You mentioned kids, and you had kids whenever you were going to school,
Mm-hmm.
going through some of these trying times. I have personally, like, my entrepreneurial journey started after Amelia was born, after my daughter was born.
Yeah, they'll motivate.
Before that, well, it's interesting. I have a friend that I think also would like to leave and start his own thing, and he just had a kid. And prior to the kid showing up, it's been, oh, I got to have the safety and security of being, working for somebody. And it's
Sure.
interesting how that changes. I'm just curious how they've been part of that motivation or that drive.
Oh, well, that is actually when I decided. That's a big part of the story I left out. When I decided to go to dental school is when she was born. So I, I, from age, before I was even graduated high school, I was out on my own, had my own place, lived with my girlfriend, who was the mother of my child, back in Mountain Home. And, I was working at a grocery store, and it felt like prison to me, because I literally felt like I was going to prison every day, because I would go there and work, and I was treated horrible and paid horrible. Um, but I like knew I had the potential to not work there. Like I knew I was destined for something better. And so it just crushed me every day. I hated it. And it was like, I was just like, I need to be somewhere else. I'm supposed to be doing something bigger. I hate it here. And then got my girlfriend pregnant, when I was 19, and she was 20. And then when she was born, that's what the catalyst was to me finding something to do successful. Then I went, okay, my mom's dad's a dentist. I can maybe call him and he can point me in the right direction. And the way I came to that is, one day I was at somebody's house, and I was painting it, like on the side outside of work for extra money. And while it was drying, before I was about to put on the second coat, I sat there on my phone and I Googled the top 10 highest paying jobs in America. And dentist was like, literally, it was like the top three, I think. It was like one, two, or three. It was super high up there. And so I just went, okay, I'm going to do that. Now, that's really how I decided. And then life kind of twisted it and, said, no, you're not going to go to dental school because it's going to be too hard, and kind of pointed me to, to Cairo school.
And then you went and you started the practice. And unless I'm mistaken, what I heard is you built it, tore down, built it, tore down, and built it again.
Well, one time I tore it down like completely and rebuilt it. And then the second time I did a minor remodel where I added a second decomp room and then changed up my front desk to get a third girl in there, and to have all financial stuff, handled up front and private. So the second one was a mild to moderate remodel. The first one was a massive remodel. Now,
Not even necessarily talking about the remodel itself, though. It's more of the fact that you realized that you could access more leverage,
oh yeah,
right?
and I'm huge on investing back in your business, right? And so that's what I did. I was like, all right, I got a little bit of money now because I'm making money in the clinic, but I want to go to another level. Where I'm at right now is not. So I just ripped the Band-Aid off and I just write the check and just be done with it. I didn't borrow any money after that. And it, put my bank account to, barely anything a few times, but I was cranking so much it'd fill right back up. And so I had no problem because of the faith I had in myself, starting completely over, changing the things up in the clinic and spending the money to do so because I knew it was going to go from here to here. And it did. And then because if you look at my numbers from year to year, it's like boom, double year 3, and then almost double, about 75% increase, the fourth year, so everything I did strategically literally was apparent in the statistics and the numbers in the bottom line on the following year. And so I'm huge on taking profit and investing it back into your business and yourself. So I had a chiro, the other day. He said, hey, a car hit his building. And so he had to go to another building, and he's been out of there for a while, and he finally got his insurance settlement check. And I said, you're going to get that insurance settlement check, and you're going to invest it back in your business, because they paid to fix his business, but he also got a check for, the time off, lost income, so on and so forth. So I said, here's the plan. Nice weekend away, with girlfriend or whoever, nice weekend away, reward yourself for all the BS you had to put up with. And then 100% of the rest of that money is going back into the business. Because he didn't even have an x-ray. Like, we're getting an x-ray. We're going to get a couple of this. And then he didn't have a staff member either. And you're going to use some of that money that's saved up to be able to pay a staff for a month or two. So then you can go to the next level. And that's exactly what he did. He took that. He's in the process doing, taking that chunk of change, put it right back in the business. So you can take the business and go back up to here.
Awesome. So I've heard you say that you've had some mentorship, and I also heard you say something that I see a lot of successful entrepreneurs do, where you analyzed who is doing well and extracted principles they were using that were, you could see the correlation. They're all using the same principles despite the fact they have different configurations in their office and whatever. Let's talk through some of those. Let's turn this on its head. This is what you're geared for in your current business. What are those principles?
Yeah. So I started doing that from when I first opened my doors. I found all the guys that I was connected with that made big money and had big impact. And I just said, can I come to your clinic? Can I hang out with you? Can I get on the phone with you? And I just pestered the crap out of them. And then I started meeting with them, and I'm like, this is going to start to sound a little arrogant, but this is just the way my thought process was. Okay, this guy's not any smarter than me. He's got the same work ethic as me. If anything, mine's better. He's not a better salesman than me. That's for damn sure. And I was like, if he's doing this, I can do it. I just got to go do the stuff he's doing and bring it to my office. All I got to do. So I just simplified it. Like, it wasn't like this thing where it was like, I got to learn how he does this. I got to do this. I just said, I just got to take what he does, bring it back to Northwest Arkansas, and do it. Like, that's it. I just got to buy the decompression table, put it in my office, and tell patients they need it. That's it. And that's all I did. It's so simple. It was so simple. There's not a lot of complicated measures that went into extracting those. It wasn't a lot of dissecting them and this or that and finding out a lot about them. It was just literally taking them for face value. You're this kind of guy, and you're making a couple $100,000 a month. I could do it. That's really what it was. It was just kind of sizing them up a little bit, and that comes with being a man a little bit, I think, but it was just kind of sizing them up and going and being a little competitive. I'm super competitive. And so it was like, I'm going to get my office to theirs. And then out of all those guys I went to, there's only one I I didn't beat in practice. So they had all been in practice 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years. And I smoked all their collections, that following year. And there was one I didn't. So there was a little bit of a competitive drive too. I was also in a little bit of a circle with two other really high level guys. And we were one in Dallas, one in Louisiana. And we were always just talking crap to each other. Like, look where you're at, look where I'm at. And, so I had a small, tight circle of only two guys. I had some of my friends that I talked to regularly, but like as far as business wise, like masterminding, it was two guys. That's it. I didn't bring anybody else into that circle, and we just had this competitive thing, and it was great. And in fact, one of them, we bet one year at dinner, just talking crap to each other, who was going to collect more. And I knew he was going to beat me because his office was twice the size of me. So I said, "How about $5,000? I'll bet you $5,000 that I beat you next year." And what I knew was, I was going to lose. But when I bet him, I knew that because I would be trying so hard to beat him, that what I'd collect in that amount of time would be exponentially more just because I'd be trying to compete with him. And so the 5,000 would actually turn into, a huge, massive amount times that. So that was the other thing too. I had a little tight circle of guys who thought like me, who were competitive, who kind of talked crap to me, kind of that male camaraderie thing of who was better. And so we're always stepping it up like that. Now, as far as like the office, and I'll pause this because I know I'm kind of doing this a little bit, but that office in Rogers is 1,400 square feet. And what we collected per square feet, I don't know that there's any other office in the country that does that. That office was tiny. I mean, tiny. And it was just me and 3 girls. That's it. And so we see a lot of these other clinics. And that was the one thing I saw. It's like, we see these guys collecting $2 million a year, $2.5 million a year, but they've got 4 or 5 other doctors. They got all this crazy overhead, and what they put on the bottom line is actually was the same as me or less anyways. So I went, well, I don't want to do all that stuff. And those guys, all those ones that I met, they all lived by that principle of just keep it all yourself. Yeah, we don't make, that stupid of money that they do, but we're putting more on the bottom line because we got our practice tight and tightly ran and a tight control on it. So that was another aspect that I extracted from them, because it's not about, at the end of the day, how much money you make. It's about how much you put on the bottom line, how much you keep, Yep. I get chiropractors in my inbox. I had one talking crap when I was first starting to say stuff on Facebook. I kind of put controversial things out there so they get a lot of attention. And, it's kind of calling me a phony and, kind of like, you're not the real deal. You just kind of like calling me out. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I haven't been around the block and he's doing this or that. And I said, well, let's do this. Grab your return from last year or your P&L and I'll grab mine. And we'll see who put more money on the bottom line, And I sent him mine, and guess what? I never got his, And so what I'm getting at is it's not as, in business, it's not as glorified as it is to collect a bunch of money unless you're keeping it, right? I've got clients that are collecting $75,000 a month, but they've got a huge overhead and they're keeping like 10, 15 of it. I've also got clients that collect 40 grand a month that are keeping 10 or 15 of it. So it's like, it doesn't matter that they collect $30,000 less. They're keeping the same amount. So this braggadocious thing about, I collected this, I did this much, it doesn't mean anything. And that was the point of that story. He's like, well, but I put more money on you on the bottom line with my 2 million, 2.5 or whatever it was. And I said, let's look at the P&Ls. Let's look at the P&Ls. Pull the P&Ls out. Let's look. Here's mine. I kept 60% of my money last year. How much did you keep? And he didn't show it because it wasn't even close. I guarantee it. But so that's the kind of thing too. Competitive nature, I think is an important thing. And you don't have to compete with other people, but compete with yourself.
I think one of my favorite things, I mean, we haven't known each other super long, but one of my favorite things, observing like the posts you do and just talking to you, is you're not afraid to call it how it is and point at the problem. And I think that's important too. And a lot of people aren't willing to look in the mirror. I think you've looked in the mirror so hard, you're willing to go toe to toe with anybody.
I am. And it comes off as like mean, But really, it's like, think of like a father, right? And a father says to you, hey, you don't need to be doing this, son. It's stupid. It's going to get you in trouble. But nowadays, everybody's so soft that you say them to them, it's like, you're mean and you're just a bad person and a nasty person. It's like, no, I want to help you. I love you. I want you to be successful, you know? And so here's why I do this, okay? This is all planned. I know what I'm doing. I know when I say this stuff, all the hate I get. You should see some of the messages I get. People, it's insane. We just laugh at all of them. I send to my buddies and we just laugh. But what I'm doing is this. The stuff is straight to the point, the truth and raw. People can agree with it or not. But by the time somebody's read that and they've decided to do like an initial call with me, they're probably somebody I'm going to vibe with and want to coach because they were able to handle some of that mean stuff. All my clients will tell you that I'm the hardest working, most loving coach that they could ever have. I'm on their ass. You know, I'm up in it. You know, I told a guy the other day, I said, he just signed with me last week. I said, you better be ready to go Monday morning because I'm calling up in your ass. You know, and so that's how I am. But when they realize it's because I care about them so much and I can see their potential even before they do, they realize that. They realize why I'm like that. So I'm actually more harsh. I take an opposite approach. Most coaches would be like kind of nice out in the atmosphere, and then they get people and then show them their, you know, competitive, mean, I'm going to coach you side. I'm Mr. Like, I don't care if it offends you. Here's how things are. Chiropractors do all this stupid stuff because they do. They're lazy. Most of them are clowns. Okay. They do all this stuff. And then I say all that. And then by the time they get to me, if they were able to handle that, well, then they'll be a good client. You know, nobody has ever jumped on my Calendly for an initial call, and I have not at least jibed with a little bit because they can handle all that stuff. And people don't understand too. Every time I put one of those posts out, I get 3 or 4 people that schedule an initial call just because they jive with it so much. I have guys. Most of my clients are older than me. I have guys. Man, I've been in practice forever. Like, I need a new look at stuff. I need somebody young and quick and the things you say, because I've been doing it the old way, like you're talking about, and you're right, it's not working. And when they realize that, because I've said it so harshly and they want to change, they actually end up being a really good client. So that's psychologically why I'm a little bit more abrasive in when I just make a post or some of the reels I do, which, by the way, keep an eye out for some of the reels that are coming out. I guarantee some of them are going to go viral because they're so mean. They're so mean.
Yeah.
But yes, but that's why I'm like that. Does that make sense? It's like, if I'm like that out there, by the time somebody has read all that and they've decided to at least talk with me in an initial call, they're the type of person that can hear that and go, you know what? I might want to learn a little bit about that, because that's how I am. It's like, obviously I'm very rooted in what I believe, but I'm also the guy that I want to sit down with you and I want you to tell me why you think that way and why it's totally opposite. And I want to hear that. Right. So that's what I'm getting by doing that. I'm getting these people that go, I've been doing that, but your way is totally opposite from what you're saying. Teach me a little bit more about that. And then once I'm able to get them on the phone and show them a couple things and then show them on a couple calls what it'll do to their bottom line, they're like, I'm in. If you can spend $500 to $800 a month with me, but I can put $10 to $50 to $60,000 more on your bottom line, what other investment can you make that has that high of an ROI? There's not one.
There's not. And I pay for education all the time.
Yeah,
people that are ahead of me and what we do.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I do that no other coaches do. I don't do a contract. The only thing you have to sign is that you agree to not steal my stuff. That you can leave whenever you want, and when you're good and you work hard for your clients, you don't have to worry about them leaving. Same thing. And I run my coaching company exactly how I ran my office. Okay. What I do with my clients is I talk to them a whole bunch, get them as successful as quick as possible, and I slow them down as fast as possible. Same thing in the office. Saw them a bunch, got them as good as quick as possible, and then slowed them way down. That way I got room for new ones to come in. The other thing I'm doing is not growing this to massive. I'm not growing this to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people where the quality goes down. I'm going to keep a tight knit circle. And that's all I'll have. And then once some of those guys from those circle are getting successful and dropping off, I'll bring some new ones back in to fill it. And that's just how it'll stay. It'll be like this tight, high quality, high performing circle of people. And we'll build a massive network. And that massive network of people then may be one of the biggest things that's ever been done in chiropractic. But the things that I'm teaching are the things that everybody's wanting to do, and the things that everybody's wanting to add that people aren't showing how to do, that I kind of took the initiative when I was in my practice to do. You know, decompression is getting so popular. You may notice that from ads. I did that like 3.5 years ago. I got it. Nobody else was running decompression ads. Nobody was doing a lot of it around here. And
even the soft wave, I'm seeing a lot more of that in advertising as well.
I bought that almost 2 years ago, you know, and did all that and sought all that out on my own. I didn't have somebody saying, hey, get decompression. Here's how you implement it. I just did it on my own. And now all that stuff is like getting super popular. And the ultimate chiropractic is adjustments, decomp, soft wave. If you have those 3 things, you can grow your clinic to any level that you want to. And that's all you need. You only need those 2 pieces of equipment, because you can take care of any musculoskeletal complaint that comes into the office with those pieces of equipment.
Around the posting and the hate and stuff, I think that people have a tendency to not appreciate or respect people that play in the gray. Mm-hmm. If you can have a polarizing opinion, there's more respect for that than like, oh yeah, kind of like that soft in the middle stuff. Who listens to anybody that doesn't have something that's kind of polarizing?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of clients that come on, they have exact opposite thoughts and practices in their clinic than what I'm teaching and talking about, you know. But like the meanest thing I've ever said, the one that got me the most hate, was that Arkansas's level of reimbursement is so high, but we have some of the lowest collecting and low level chiros, and we have a huge population of chiros that suck. We do. That's the truth, you know. Why is a salary for a chiropractor so terrible in Arkansas, but you can bill an insurance company and they'll send you $80 per visit? Other states would kill for that. So why do we have such low salaries and collection rates for chiros? And that was like the one clown in my inbox. Well, where'd you get those numbers? And I just sent him the Google link. I sent him the link to Google. I'm like, here you go. You can get it yourself. Like, do your research. I did mine, you know. And it's like, our state is the best state to practice in. The board isn't breathing down your throat like most states. The scope of practice is kind of open. The regulations are so like our board is, I gotta be careful saying this. I'm not practicing anymore, so I really don't care. There's nothing they can do to me, but I don't want to be insulting towards them. But like, it's so, their statutes are so like gray area that it protects you, because there's not really a lot black and white like a lot of these states. And so, and then the reimbursement rates are like Blue Cross Blue Shield and better and stuff is like huge, and other states would kill for that. And we have that. And my point of that post was, you guys stop whining. Don't talk about practice sucks, this and that. And that's what I'm tired of seeing in Arkansas, because it's too easy. And so like, that was the point of that post. Practice in Arkansas is great. Reimbursement is great. You don't get to whine. And if you're whining, you're probably one of the ones that sucks and needs help. There's nothing wrong with that. I had one girl on there. All the chiros are so nice here. I'm like, of course. I bet they are. I'm not talking about them nice. I'm talking about them sucking in their business. I'm talking about them complaining that stuff is hard when it's not. We have it so good in Arkansas. We're so blessed, and it's going to go away at some point. You know, what happens with insurance is like, out here, it's like good and then really good here, and then it kind of shrinks in. So like here, kind of in the center of the country, we're still doing really good with reimbursement rates. And that's going to go away at some point. I guarantee it. And better at some point. You know, I had, I think 100 file audits the last couple of years from Ambetter. They're looking into that because they're reimbursing like crazy. And at some point they're going to go, we ain't paying that much anymore. And then it is going to start to get a little bit harder, you know, but right now I could teach somebody in Arkansas. I literally could show somebody in 24 months how to collect 6 figures a month, like so fast, because the state we're in. That's a big, big part of it. You could be a mediocre chiropractor and collect big money in Arkansas because it's so easy. But if you go out in the public and you go, listen, guys, it's so easy here. Stop complaining. And if you're complaining and whining and bitching and moaning, you're probably one of the ones that suck. You can't say that because people get mad, and that's the truth. And those people that get offended, upset, and they don't want to hear that, I guarantee they're the ones that need the help. They always are. The ones that usually don't need the help or are interested in are the ones going, maybe I don't agree, or yeah, you are right, but tell me more. What do you mean? I didn't know that. I didn't know you could get reimbursed for that. I didn't know, there's so many things here that chiropractors can get reimbursed for that it's so easy to do in their office, and it's legitimate and easy to do and get reimbursed for. They have no idea, but they won't listen, so getting a chiropractor and getting a client to listen is what's really tough. I've got a couple clients. They hired me because they're seeing a bunch of people, but they're making no money. And they've got their office backwards and they're collection per visit. And then it's like, I give them all this stuff and then they don't do it, So it's tough to get people. It's tough to get people to listen. I will change, chiropractic in Arkansas. By the time my career's over, by the time they put me 6 feet under, Arkansas will be the best state, We need to update things so bad. Like you can't even renew your license online. How can you not? It's 2023, almost 2024. How can you not renew your license online? How come you can only get your license twice a year? Like things like that, and it's just like we need to update. We need somebody that's going to be a leader to update this stuff and make it better in Arkansas, and I will. And I think once everybody realizes that and what I'm really trying to do, they'll get behind me to do that. But because we have the best state in the world, and Northwest Arkansas is the best place in Arkansas to practice. I opened a practice with no money, and made massive success because everybody was so supportive and cared and wanted to support me and listened. And the people here were so good and trusting and good people. Like, you're not going to North Little Rock and Conway and Searcy and these other places. You can do well there, of course, but I don't think it's as good as Northwest Arkansas. I think Northwest Arkansas smokes everybody in places to open a small business, So the bottom line, just people can't complain about, chiropractors in general can't complain about Arkansas and practicing in Arkansas because it's so damn good.
So digging into that a little bit, you mentioned like the salaries, not just in Arkansas, but typical salary of a chiropractor, period. We'll zoom in outside of just business in general, but into chiropractic for a second.
Yeah.
What is it that's holding them back?
Great question. Here's what it is. Okay. So first of all, we are second to last. We probably have the best, highest reimbursements and the best scope of practice in the US, but we have the second to last salary level. It doesn't correlate. Okay. Because their guys are getting out of school and they're going to work at these practices that aren't doing anything. Right. And so there's no leadership to say, here's what you need to do. And these practices are low level. So that's all they can afford to pay them. Right. That's all that they can afford. Now, you hear me talk about money a lot. The most important thing in business and practice is to be happy. Right. Now, a lot of that happiness comes from the freedom that money buys. That's the truth. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. But it's what level of that do you want to be at? That's what it is. And so I talk a lot about that. But if your office is only collecting $200,000 a year and you can only pay your associate $40,000, they're happy with that and you're happy with that, more power to you. That is a successful clinic. If you're happy with the way that your life is, that's a successful clinic. But most of them aren't. Most of them want to do more and they just don't. And the number one thing is because they're lazy. That's what it is. It comes down to laziness.
Do you have some cures for that? Is it laziness born out of not knowing where to direct themselves?
Not knowing what to do. So I'm just going to kind of do my thing that I think works and not try because I just don't have the guidance. So I kind of give up. And then, I've got this practice that's okay, but this is all I can pay a chiro to come in and work in my office. So that is going to lower the overall average salaries of chiropractors. And so it's statistically and numbers wise, what it boils down to is they're not bringing in enough money to pay a bigger salary. and they're going to have to because of inflation and everything that's going on. If you want a good chiro in your office, a good associate now, you're going to have to pay a minimum of $80,000 a year. A minimum. My salary was 50 when I got out of school. Plus my IC stuff ended up making, a lot more than that, but that was my salary. And just 4 years, now it's a minimum of 80. It's like 30% more, whatever that is, or 25% more, in just 4 years, So we as chiropractors are going to have to do more, see more, and make more if we want those salaries to be bigger.
What are the levers in a successful chiropractic business, like office, staffing, procedures? Like you've mentioned that you were able to elevate your practice through some different modalities that were brought in, but where are they getting hung up there?
Every single one of the things you just named. We could walk in, they've got the office incorrectly designed. We could have the layout incorrectly. We could have the incorrect number of staff, incorrect hours. That's one of the biggest things that people mess up. They start seeing people at 9. It's like the typical American workday, and especially here, is 9 to 5. Everybody works 9 to 5 for Walmart. You can't start seeing people at 9. They got to be at work at 9. You got to start seeing people at 8:15, 8:30. I can change somebody's hours by 45 minutes, and they see 10 or 15 more people a day by just changing hours and changing nothing else. People's hours are wrong. People's staff is wrong. People's staff training is wrong. People's pricing is wrong. People are in with the incorrect insurances. There's only 2 insurances that are worth being in with here, and that's Blue Cross and Ambetter. That's it. There's no other ones as a chiropractor worth being in. Training. The doctor themselves. I'm a firm believer and advocate that what your business is what you are, right? And so if you don't take care of yourself, you're overweight, you're lazy, your personal life is a mess, your office probably is as well. So some chiros, it's their personal life and their other stuff. Lack of guidance, lack of training. Running a chiro office can be hard, because everything's a grind. Getting new patients in is a grind. Getting them to start care is a grind. Getting them to pay. Getting them to commit to care. It's all a grind. So if you don't have systems for that, that's another thing. Systems. The chiros they don't have any systems. They just wing it. Oh, come see me here. Come do this. Come do that. And there's no plan to get the patient better. It's like, oh yeah, come see me next week. Or there's no plan in place. So literally everything that you named are problems.
I obviously only get to see through the marketing lens a lot of times, but I liked what you said about hours. That's something that I've preached on. Obviously, I'm coming from a different position, so I don't get listened to as much as I hope they listen to you.
Right.
But I always pose the question and try to put things in like hard contrast to make them realize it is important. It's like, okay, so I'm going to open a chiropractic practice and I'm going to be open only on Wednesdays at 1:00.
Yeah.
How are you going to get somebody to schedule? When's the most ideal time to schedule? And it's like, well, it's when the person wants to. So your thought process or your strategy is like, well, typically people go to work at 9. Yeah. And 9 to 5, they're there. They can't come see you. So
rocket science, it's like that's like basic level, like patient psychology. There's not much to it. Like, duh. But you'd be surprised. Chiros think they work these schedules that they're like, why can't I see any more people? I can't get any more people in here. I'm not making any more money. It's like, I did this thing, and this is how I figured that out. My second year of practice, because I played with my hours. A lot of chiros take Tuesday mornings off. A lot of them take off Fridays. I did that. I took Friday off at one point, and I went, okay, I'm going to put on a whiteboard, and I'm going to rank all the chiros I know that make big money. And I'm going to rank their hours and rank their pay. And it was almost identical to the amount of hours to who made the most. Like in the middle or towards the end, there was like a couple flip-flopped randomly. But the guy that had the most hours made the most money. The guy that had the second most amount of hours made the second amount of most money. It was like perfect to a T. I did that with like 5, 10 docs on a board. And I went, all right, I'm staying open all day Tuesday. I'm going to work a half day on Friday, and I'm so glad I did that, because Friday morning from 9 to 12 is where I made all my money. All my money was made on Friday. And I don't know why. I still to this day, maybe because patients are in better moods on Fridays. Fridays are paydays. We're getting to the weekend. Just like people made decisions better on Friday morning than any other day during the week. And I don't have an answer as to why that is, but it would be so dumb not to have a little bit of hours on Fridays in a chiro office. Like all the chiros here are closed on Friday, all of them. And I was like one of the only ones over in my area that was open. So I cleaned house. I'd have patients come in Friday. Like we'd have 3 new patient schedules for Friday, but at the end of Friday, then we opened up it was 9 on the door, but we started seeing patients at 8:15. And so 8:15 to 12, 3 or 4 other ones scheduled. And then they'd come in. And because it was the weekend, I would just tell them, hey, I usually have you come back a second day to go over recommendations and then start your plan. I can just go over that today and we can start right now if you want. And then I'd have patients inside the door prepaying several $1,000s and they had only been in the office 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm not saying that that's because I'm some genius. It's just because I tailored my practice to what the market wants.
Right.
And it paid off.
I mean, you could have thousands of chiropractors all in the same area, and if they're all off Friday, you're a category of 1 if you're open on Friday. You're competing with no one.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
That's an advantage.
House on Friday, it was just like, it was balls out. The floodgates were open. Like, just get through it because it was just people all over. It was my biggest day for new patients. And that's because most other guys were closed on Fridays. And I was like, enjoy your 3 extra hours that you get that I don't, while I hit 10 or 15 grand in those 3 hours. Enjoy it. Enjoy the sleeping in an extra hour and then watching cartoons. Like, have fun. Right. I'm going to go ahead and just go work those 3 hours and put another several $100,000 on my bottom line, and that's where the laziness, comes in. It's like, well, I want Fridays off. Okay. Well, that's why I tell chiropractors all the time. You have to decide what you want. You want Fridays off? Are you okay taking your income down? Yep. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
I want this amount off. Okay. Are you cool? I want Tuesday mornings off. Fine. Are you okay seeing 75 people in 3 hours from 3 to 6 on Tuesday afternoon? No. Okay. Well, then stay open and spread it out. So that's what coaches aren't teaching. Coaches are, here's how it is. Here's the schedule. Here's the script. Here's this. Go do it. I take a more personal approach and go, what do you want, Kraig? Now let's design that. And then I'll poke the holes and the flaws in what you want if you think it's going to get you somewhere that it's not. All right. And then you can change your mind or we can tailor it up. And that's what people are realizing. And that's why I already have 25 clients and I don't even have a website yet. It's because people realize the way I'm doing stuff and already getting, several referrals. And that's the way they're doing things. I'll plug that in here real quick. I am doing it in groups of 20. I've only decided to take 60 clients and I'm doing it in groups of 20. I did my first 20 until stuff was released. My website's just about done. They're taking forever to do it and load it up. My website's about done. My next 20 are going to be more expensive. And then once we're really rolling, I'm rolling out my first in-house training here in Rogers in November. It will be free to come to for clients. It'll be a small fee for people that aren't clients. And we're going to do a very high level training right in the office I used to work at or own. And we're starting to roll that out. And then once all that's rolling and we've got 20 spots left, those last 20 are going to be the most expensive. So I'm doing it in increments as we get more perceived value from the community of chiropractors. Like right now, I'm the new guy on the block. I got to prove myself. People think I say mean stuff. I gotta show how I'm different. So like I have to charge a little bit less right now. Well, now I've got a book of clients. I could just stick with these 25 right now and not see any more. And it's kind of fun and keep it really, really high level. And I talk to them all almost every day. Then I get another 20. It's more expensive because now I'm starting to get a little bit of reputation, a little bit of a buzz about me. Then I've got 40, 50 clients and we're just cranking it and doing really high level trainings and seminars. I take my last 20 at an even higher rate. And then if you want to talk to me after that, it's going to be something very, very expensive at that point, well over $1,000 a month, just because we won't have the room and the value will have grown.
So if you guys are listening to what he just said, I'm going to use that as a quick segue.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So hopefully provide every chiropractor that listens to this a little bit of value, because I've already seen some of his content and how he thinks about this, and I want everybody to hear this. Break that down on new patient offers and how much they get in their way there. Because I'm a big believer in competing on value instead of price, but I think you have some additional things to go along with that
Sure.
that are helpful.
So yeah, I take the complete opposite approach to the new patient special. I include the adjustment. That's what you're talking about, right?
Including of the adjustment, how you set your pricing.
You're talking about the new patient special, though, specifically, right?
Correct.
All
yep.
Right. So now this came from trial and error with 4 different marketing companies, and this idea did not come from me, right? This came from my ad guy, who I'm really tied in with and married to. It was taught to me, but I implemented it. But what I advise my clients to do is to run an ad that is extremely competitive. Basically, you log on the ad thing. I forgot what it's called. The ad, not the ad center, but where
ad library.
Ad library, where you can see everybody's ads, and then you look
Yep.
at everybody's and you make yours cheaper, and then you include the adjustment, because everybody else's ads, and this is why me and Kraig get along really, really well, because we have a lot of things that we think completely different on, but we're open to listening. Well, why do you do it that way? And Warren, why do you do it this way? And I think that's how everybody needs to be. But what I am really big on is being very competitive. And that's why my Facebook ads, they were so simple. There was nothing fancy about them, little picture, but because there was no other ad that was $19 that included the adjustment anywhere. Oh my gosh. I literally had to shut it off all the time, because it was just, we were just getting flooded. And there was months that we did 60K just from that Facebook ad, because I could convert them now. And so I think the bridge you're wanting me to make is, you got to give to get, right? And so I'm willing to do that first little bit for a little money, because I'm playing the long game with patients. I want patients to come see me forever. So that's what I'm doing with my consultant. I'll do your first call for free, no obligation. I'm not going to look you in the eye when we're done and say, what would you like to do? What works best for you? You want to prepay, make payments? Here's what I can do, man. You can roll or not. And if you want to roll, you got to let me know within 24 hours. That's all I ask, That's the way I do things. I believe in providing value, and then in return, you'll get commitment because if you've provided the value and proved yourself. And there's so many coaching companies out there that I have to, most of them burn their clients, burn for money, overpromise, underdeliver. That if I just do a little good, it's easy. It's easy to clean house in this demographic of people, because there's not that many people that are doing a good job. So I think that's what you're getting at, is giving to get, and I do a more of aggressive approach, but I also do the approach where it's like, well, I'll prove to you how good I am a chiropractor, and I don't mind for doing it that little money. Now, the other thing is the way the math works out on that. Okay. If you're a practice that's doing anything, and we take a $40 ad, and we take a $19 ad, okay, there's a $21 difference. I see X amount of patients, you see X amount of patients. If we take the difference of that, it's only a few $100 difference. And at the end of the day, it doesn't change your bottom line. I actually probably put more on the bottom line, because I was willing to filter through more tire kickers, more people that didn't want it, more people that couldn't afford it, because I got more leads. I'm so good at closing people and showing them that I can fix them, that I want to show it to everybody, even the ones that can't afford it, because then the ones that can't afford it are going to go out and talk about how awesome I am. So I'm willing to do a new patient thing for way, way cheap, because I know at the end of the day, I'm so good at what I do that people are going to go and say good things about me. And that's how it translates into the consulting. We do your initial coaching call, and they're 30 minutes. I usually, you know how much I get on rants. They usually end up being an hour, maybe longer. And I'm usually, instead of telling people what I can do, I'm usually giving them tips for free. And I need to stop doing that. But if you leave that call and you decide not to work with me, you still know I got the answer. And if I can take an hour and show a chiro something and provide them value and they don't start, I guarantee they're still going to say, Warren knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, and I know you will. But I think at the root of what, so we'll go back to the new patient specialist setup. I think a lot of the resistance in dropping that price or, you know, adding the adjustment and things like that comes from a fear, a point of fear. They feel like they have to make money on that adjustment because they don't feel confident in closing.
That's exactly what
the long-term care plan.
Exactly what it is. You don't make any money on that first visit. By the time you've done all that, you got your girls, you got your lights, you got your overhead. That first visit makes you nothing anyways. So I don't care. I'll take $21 less. I'm not making jack on it anyways. I make money on care plans. And so that's what it is. Those docs feel like, I got to get at least 50 a visit. I'm trying to get 50 a visit. But your collection per visit, your CPV, I call it, your CPV comes from an average. When we average a number, the more numbers that are put into that number have a bigger effect. Okay. And that is going to be visits from people you put on care plans, not initial visits. Initial visits only make a small percentage of that average over the month. What makes the bigger average is the people starting care. And that's what I'm working on. That's what I want. Okay. So I'll do the first one. You know how many ones I did for free? When I first opened, I just had everybody come for free for a first visit. Right. And that's how I had, you know, I don't know, 100 patients, new patients my first month or something like that. Because I told everybody, why don't you just come by the clinic, check it out. I'll do a little work on you for free, take an x-ray. I'll show you what I do. And then those people would just start care. You know, now that was a tactic taught to me by the, you know, I don't get credit for that tactic. That was a tactic taught to me by my coach, you know, and it was really good advice. And I still live by that, you know, but I teach a lot of things different, you know, and a lot of things opposite than he did.
I think what you hit on earlier, though, is important because these are all levers that you can pull. Do you want the Friday off? Do you feel confident enough that you can give it away? And then there's also the aspect of, like, you didn't do that forever, right?
No.
But as a way to build credibility, to establish a base, to start getting some traction, that was a tremendous tool, correct?
Absolutely.
It ran its course. It wasn't useful at some point, and we changed that. But depending on where you're at, you have to analyze, like, where's the bottleneck, and then correct that to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That sound right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? I feel like if we sat here for another 2 hours, we could extract a lot of great things.
I told you when we decided to do this, we could go as long as you wanted to go because I got something to say about everything. I think we've touched everything, man. We've touched what it takes to be successful. We've talked about hardship. We've talked about some of the specific stuff in chiro offices. We've talked about me and my personality. We've talked about a little bit what I do with consulting and how some of the things that I teach, some things that translate into success. You know, I think we've hit a really good bit of stuff.
I think at some point I will probably like to invite you back. To end this, I usually ask, we'll do quick rapid fire, any books, podcasts, people that you would follow that would be helpful or useful, people trying to grow their practice.
You know,
obviously you, and we'll plug that. All those details to find Ryan will be below.
Me, no. I didn't read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts. I did more reaching out to those people that were successful and try to get around them and get in their presence. That's actually what I did. Not a very good reader. I always buy the book and buy it on Audible so I can just listen to it and follow along. I always buy it on both, you know, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F is a great book. That's one I really like. Man, there's one, what is it? Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It was a book that literally changed my life, but was not, when I say literally changed my life, literally there was one story in there. And I will tell a story real quick. Oh man, it was something about perspective. I'm going to Google it and I'm going to have to text you when we're done. It was so good, man. But basically it was kind of like a book on perspective, you know? And it told this story The setting was a night college business course. That was the setting for this little story in there. And there was all these little stories with lessons in there. And it was just like this little cheap, book that I read, but I couldn't believe it's not as popular as it should be. And there's all these students coming at night to this prestigious business class at night. And the instructor always arrives after them because he's got a class before it. And so he's always behind a little bit. The students are usually there first. So he comes in the first night, and the students are sitting outside in kind of the lobby area and not in the classroom. They're all kind of talking, mingling, hanging out. And the instructor of the course goes, "Why isn't everybody in the classroom?" The janitor must have left the door locked, and goes, does his class. Afterwards, tells the janitor, "Hey, will you please make sure the door's unlocked so they can, sit down and not have to stay in the lobby?" Janitor says, "Yes, sir. No problem. I apologize." Okay. That's Monday. Wednesday rolls around. Instructor comes in. Guess where everybody is? They're still in the lobby, chatting, blah, 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 blah. He then, same thing, conducts class, tells the janitor again, but even more firm and actually kind of a jerk, "Hey, do you not remember on Monday I told you to unlock this class? I need you to make sure the class is unlocked so everybody can sit in there and have their seats and be ready. I thought I unlocked it. I'm really sorry. I sincerely apologize. It won't happen again." Friday rolls around, same thing. Instructor comes, everybody's in the lobby. This time he's pissed. He goes, before he does anything, he goes and finds the janitor and he says, "I've told you twice now. Are you incompetent? Are you stupid? Are you some kind of dumbass? What is the problem that you cannot simply unlock the door?" "Sir, I could have swore I did. I'm sincerely sorry. Let's go right now. I will go unlock it right now." And they walk to the class, and they get to the door, and the janitor goes to grab his keys and put it in the door and grabs the door and opens it up. It actually was unlocked. All right. And so what the students were just hanging out in the lobby because they wanted to converse, and hang out and catch up before they went into class. And the guy was just assuming that the door was locked, the instructor was, and that his students couldn't go in there and sit down. And so the lesson it taught was, even when you're wrong, this blew my freaking mind. I've literally just got the goosebumps. Even when you're wrong, even when you think you're right and there's like no way about it because it's happened 3 times, you're right, to make sure you still treat people with respect because you could actually be wrong and not have realized it. Right? And so like there was like a time in traffic where like somebody like came into my lane. It was like right after I read this book, they came into my lane and I laid on my horn. I probably even gave them the finger too. Like they came over quick. And then I was like, what the, I was so pissed because they came over so like dangerously quick. Well, there had just been an accident on the side of the road and he had to get over quick, to get out of the way. And he like pointed like, "Look, idiot. Like I just had to avoid that." And I was like, "My bad." And so it played out perfectly. Like I thought I was right and that he was an idiot, but it turns out he probably just saved hitting those people and maybe turning and me hitting him or something, but me, I'm being a reactive jackass and getting upset with him. But actually he was right. He saved both of us by getting over quick and I just couldn't see it. So the lesson from that, and there was all these lessons in there like that. It was so good. I'm going to find it. If you don't mind, I might be able to take 10 seconds here. I might be able to
go ahead.
My Audible. But that was the lesson, is even when you think you're right, without a doubt, and the other person is wrong, still be a man of respect, because you might actually be wrong and you just haven't realized it yet. And it like those open mouth insert foot moments.
Jordan Peterson gives some kind of parable like that, and it's applied quite well to marriage life also.
Sorry to interrupt you. Real influence.
Okay. So check that out, everybody.
Yeah. My books are, I sorry to interrupt you. Extreme Ownership, The 4-Hour Body, Real Influence, Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins, Sleep Smarter.
That's a good one.
The Power of Habit, Make Your Bed, Think and Grow Rich, of course. Influence, Getting to Yes, Educated, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency stuff, blockchain, Side Hustle, Amazon FBA, Tax Guides, The Miracle Morning, Start with Why, Rich Dad, Tax-Free Wealth, Becoming Bulletproof. I'm almost done, I promise. Another crypto book. My other favorite book of all time, The 88 Laws of the Masculine Mindset. If you read that book, you will understand Warren to his core. I live by, I don't perfectly, but I try to live by everything in that book. That's a book that you can read in an hour and a half sitting at the lake or at the beach, and that one will change your life as well. But Real Influence is the one that made me go,
Real Influence, and that last one you said was the 88 Laws of Masculine...
Of the Masculine Mind.
Of the Masculine Mind.
That's a good one.
Awesome. Curious, have you mentioned Napoleon Hill's book. Have you read Outwitting the Devil?
No.
So if you like Napoleon Hill, I think you'll love that one. Actually, it was a big inspiration to the name of the podcast, Outwitting Statistics, Outwitting the Devil.
I will get it. I'll listen to it if they have it on Audible.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Again, we'll have to have you back and dive into some more stuff. If anybody out there is struggling in their practice and wants some help, what is the best way for them to reach out and find you? Presuming you have a spot open for them.
As of right now, and I'm just getting started and there's no website, just find me on Facebook, shoot me a message, add me on Facebook. You can text my cell phone, 314-443-2269. You can email me at apexchiroconsulting@gmail.com. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Awesome. Well, again, it's been a blast, and thank you for having you come on.
Sincerely appreciate it. It was fun.
Hey, this is Kraig Bond, the owner of Elite Results Marketing. Did you like today's episode of Outwitting Statistics? We hope that you have enjoyed it and learned as much as we did. If you did, please take time to like and subscribe. If you feel like the information that was shared today would be valuable to another entrepreneur that you know, please take time to share it with them. If you're looking for a digital marketing partner that can help take your business to the next level, grow and increase your online presence, be sure to check out www.eliteresultsmarketing.com. We would be happy to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.